Hello, my name's Anne-Marie and I'm going to share with you today some musings about music and how it can move us. So this talk came about through a chat that was happening on Twitter a while back around the subject of Kate Bush. And as part of that chat, I posted a video of an event that I'd taken part in back in 2019. In Folkestone, and it was called the Most Wuthering Heights Day Ever, and it's a Kate Bush tribute day where people get together and they dress up as Kate Bush and they do the dance from the video of Wuthering Heights. And it was Berenice who commented that I should do a talk about this, and at the time I didn't really think that there was enough in that for a talk. From my point of view anyway, just as a one-time attendee. But then it was a comment that Kathy made afterwards that made me think perhaps Berenice was onto something after all. And Kathy had found the video really, really moving. And she said if she had been there at the event, she'd probably have been really emotional and been in tears. And it has exactly that effect on me. That sense of with people coming together, not caring how ridiculous they look, all joining in together, and all because of one beautiful song. And then as these crazy months this last year has unfolded, music and human connection have been like lights through a dark time, and there seemed to be more and more in the idea. So music has an incredible power to evoke emotional and physical reactions and connect us to each other and to our pasts. Now, I'm no musician. You don't want to hear me sing and you don't want me in your band, but I listen to music all the time, and I'm coming at this from a perspective of a primarily visual person. So I work with images, I love to draw and doodle, I visit galleries, I love looking at art in books and online. But I'm just fascinated by the way that music, like nothing else, can invoke really powerful emotions in us really quickly. And I think it's unique amongst art forms in this way, and it's like a kind of magic. People have made music for probably as long as there have been people. It certainly seems to have preceded spoken language. And as humans, we respond to music before we're even born. So we're aware of rhythm and notes, even as we're developing humans. And because it's one of the first things that we develop, it's one of the last to leave us as well. So it's where some of the deepest neural pathways are laid down. And it's the reason why our first language and the sort of babbling and cooing that we do between carers and babies, it's kind of like a musical exchange, and it's why we're so responsive to it and how it helps us to develop language. You might have seen this amazing video, it's so beautiful, on YouTube of a former ballet dancer in Spain called Marta Cinta González Saldaña. Sorry for the pronunciation. She died in 2019, and that was the year that this video was shot. The clip went viral when it was posted by a Spanish organisation that promotes the value of music for people living with Alzheimer's. As the music plays, so Marta's sitting here in a wheelchair, and as the music from Swan Lake starts playing, she starts moving her arms and just reliving her performance of Swan Lake when she was young, and it's just beautiful. The music's processed in so many different parts of the brain, and if there's something blocking the neural pathway, it finds another path. And music, particularly from formative stages in our lives, so maybe around our teens and early 20s, there's like a memory bump. And so around this time, we're forming like intense social bonds. We've got big life changes going on. Maybe we're moving away from home. Or like Marta, you're dancing your first leading role on stage. And so hearing that music will just put you back into that place. And then last year, it was really hard to miss the story of the ex-music teacher, Paul Harvey, who went to #1 in the charts with his composition, which came from a starting point of 4 notes given at random by his son and fellow composer Nick Harvey, who said at the time, although his dementia is getting worse, moments like this bring him back to me. And in an interview following it, an ex-pupil of Paul's put it so beautifully when she said, music is communication from the heart and the soul. And there are similar examples where people with dementia sing together in choirs, and their memories are as clear as ever when it comes to recalling the words to long-loved songs. And singing in choirs has numerous other benefits as well. Apparently, roughly 2.8 million people in Britain are now members of a choir. It's really brilliant for helping make strong social bonds, particularly quickly and within large groups, and creates a strong sense of well-being and community, as well as having huge physiological benefits and exercising the brain, improving breathing, reducing stress, and it's kind of used as a form of therapy, really. This picture was taken at an event near the River Thames many years ago, just fantastic. Of course, choirs have had to take their singing online recently, and live music has taken a hit as well, which is something that I'm sure loads of us miss really badly. And the experience of hearing music played live is like nothing else, and the response of the crowd just adds to that emotion. And the feeling of being connected to the experience, to everyone around you, is something that I really hope we can get back to before too long. For me, the audience response is a huge part of the event, and the sound of an applause alone can give me the shivers, even if it's a recording of a show. I really hope Bob Marley wouldn't get mad with me for saying this, but I always get a tear in my eye when I hear No Woman, No Cry. But even more so when it's the live version and the cheer goes up from the audience as they recognise the introduction. And then on top of that, the beautiful harmonies of the I3s come in, Bob's backing singers, and it's just magical. There's something in harmonies that particularly jangles our synapses, especially when it seems to be when there's a close family connection. There's something particularly magic about that. Like here with the sisters in First Aid Kit, this is a terrible picture, but it's from the Cambridge Folk Festival a couple of years ago. Even more beautiful in real life than their recordings. And hearing a choir, massed voices together is just like nothing else. My husband, who if you cut him through the middle is probably 80% reggae, 10% house music and 8% drum and bass, took me really by surprise one day when he said he really loved the idea of going to see a Welsh male voice choir. So I bought us tickets to go into the 25th London Welsh Festival of Male Choirs at the Royal Albert Hall. And it was the most phenomenal experience, all these hundreds of voices coming together. It was just something else. So I don't know about you, I thought this applied to everybody, but I often get goosebumps, physical goosebumps as a response to music. It was only when I started writing this talk and doing a bit of reading that I learned this isn't the case for everybody. But I find it so amazing that a piece of music can have such a physical effect on a person. DJ on the radio a few weeks ago put it beautifully one day as he was introducing a tune, and he said, I get a proper neck mohican every time the guitar launches itself in on this. Now, we know a certain amount about the reasons why we get these effects. Listening to the music you love, your brain releases dopamine, and that's a critical neurotransmitter for humans' emotional and cognitive functioning. So we know how it happens, but scientifically, there's not really any conclusive theory as to why music affects us in this way. And there's a lot of things that can be traced back to some element of survival and connection, but there's nothing concrete there, and I think that's partly what makes it so magical. Which takes me to religion. Now, I'm not a religious person at all, but when my much missed mother-in-law was alive, she was a regular churchgoer, And we would on occasion join her at the Baptist Church on Devonshire Road here in Cambridge, as it was then. And it had a largely Jamaican congregation. And the music was so incredible. There'd be these amazing singers, fantastic musicians. And even though I didn't relate to the words, a lot of them necessarily, it was, for me, a spiritual experience that would just sweep you away. And there's a quote from a book that I love called The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck, where a character, Jim Casey, who is an ex-preacher, says, and I'm going to paraphrase because it would demand me doing an accent, and you don't want to hear that any more than you want to hear me sing, but he says words to the effect of, before I knew it, I was saying out loud, the hell with it, there's no sin and no virtue, there's just stuff people do, and it's all part of the same thing. And I said, what's it called, this spirit? And I said, it's love. I love people so much I'm fit to burst sometimes. And I figured, why have we got to hang it on God or Jesus? Maybe, I figured, maybe it's all men and all women we love. Maybe that's the Holy Spirit, the human spirit, the whole shebang. Maybe all men got one big soul and everyone's part of. And it's this sentiment that always comes to me in this sort of situation, that it's the music that's connecting us all, bringing us together, uniting us in this amazing feeling. And that's the same whether it's in church or at an amazing rock concert. And this sense of connection has been more important than ever during this last strange year. I never used to really understand when people would call into a radio station to get their song played. It kind of seemed like a bit of vanity, and I used to think, why not just put the song on for yourself at home? But while so many of us have been physically separated, it's been a real comfort listening to favourite programmes on the radio and hearing people have songs played for their friends and family members. And many times it's been like getting a hug through the airwaves. And of course, often it's the words in songs that we relate to. Lyrical content has a huge part to play. And delving into the words of a song, you can often find a soul laid completely bare. There's countless examples I could go into, but the one that pops up for me is Every Christmas, the best Christmas song in the world, and I won't have any argument about it, which is the Fairy Tale of New York by the Pogues and Kirsty MacColl. And there's a line in it that I just can't, I'll sing along and I just can't get past it without choking up every time. It's ridiculous, but yes, beautiful lyrics. And if you recognize somebody in somebody's lyrics, your own emotions, particularly when they're very difficult emotions, you get a sense of validation from that through music. And talking of crying, you might well have experienced being moved to tears by a piece of music. And when it happens, it can come at you just like a bolt from the blue. You're going about your business, everything's quite normal and cheerful and ordinary, and then boom, piece of music comes on out of the blue and you're just like a blubbering wreck. I don't think it's just me. At least I know that this happened to my dad, and I'll always remember him telling me he's not a man who's given to frequent bouts of tears at all. But he told me the story of driving home from work one evening, and he can remember exactly where he was in his car. And the Pearl Fishers duet from the opera The Pearl Fishers came on, and it's a song about friendship. And it's in French. He wouldn't have understood what they were singing about, but it's so beautiful and the harmonies are so lovely and it's so heartfelt that it made him cry. And yeah, as a jazz fiend especially, it was particularly surprising. So I've never forgotten that. And now, of course, whenever I hear that song, it makes me cry as well. Of course, I don't know whether it's because of the music or because of that memory thing that it connects. But of course, music can also make us happy. And some pieces of music are just happy sounds with the power to lift our mood, maybe from an uplifting melody, cheering lyrics, or that pull to the dance floor that makes us get up and boogie. And who doesn't feel better for a good dance? This photo is my mum dancing at my sister's wedding. I just love it. um, um, but yeah, we have associations with songs that we love that jolt us back to happy times. And at my wedding, I'll always remember the song My Boy Lollipop by Millie Small came on. And my mum dragged my dad onto the dance floor, and it was just the two of them, everyone watching, and they were absolutely stole the show, and it was just gorgeous. Another piece of music that always makes me smile, for one, because it's so bonkers and unique, but that's Bohemian Rhapsody. And again, I've got a connection to that because it was the first song that my mum downloaded when she got her first MP3 player years ago. And it was just such a surprise because I had no idea that she liked the song. As I say, they're jazz fiends in that house. And yeah, I just had no clue. And then coupled with the fact that a very good friend of mine chose the song as a choice, the one and only time she's done karaoke. And and the sheer nerve of the woman to pick that and sing her whole way through it just makes me laugh even years later. So back to the Harbour Arm in Folkestone and the most Wuthering Heights day ever. It was just such a joyful event, really emotional. It's an event that happens all over the world, from Australia to here, and it's been going on since, I think, since 2016. But yes, just being there amongst hundreds of other Kates. There was baby Kates, older Kates, beardy Kates. There was even one canine Kate, all dancing together. Well, not the dog, he was just bemused, but the feeling of connection there and being there for one purpose, everyone smiling together, it was just really special. And the smaller picture is of me and my brother-in-law, my glamorous brother-in-law, who decided at the last minute, the night before, that he was going to join in with me. And my sister made him a dress out of their Christmas tablecloth. And she came down to spectate along with my mum and dad. And my poor dad had to find himself a seat at some point. He couldn't stay on his feet for much longer. So he sat himself down, and bless him, from his low vantage point, he got the unfortunate view when one of the bearded Kates did a high kick, and due to him having put more care into his red dress and his makeup than he had into the state of his underwear, my dad got an eyeful of untethered testicles, and thus Wuthering Heights might hold different memories for him from now on. Anyway, on that note, I've put together a playlist of some of the songs that I've mentioned and some other ones that have a similar effect. So if you look up this Anne-Marie's Music That Moves on YouTube and Spotify, you can hear some of those connections. Thank you very much.